Hi, good morning. For me, it's morning here. Um, God is pushing me to make this video early on. It's 6 a.m. here. Um, and God has a message basically that wants me to convey. Um, and I'll try to do this the proper way. I wrote on my Facebook page some articles. I think I started writing like in 2020. Um, or something like this, late 2020, something like this, about how you do bondage breaking by animals. Okay, basically, it's not that complicated. What happens is um, you raise an animal. You ideally you take the animal as early possible, like baby just born, something like this, or if not, even later on. But you just take an animal and raise that animal. I do this with dogs. You can do with whatever animal you prefer, can be cats or whatever. But the point is the following: there are certain people who lose their souls. There are many ways in which you can lose a soul. It can happen because you betrayed God and you fell into darkness, and then God takes that soul. It never happens, even if an individual goes to hell, it never happens that darkness takes a soul. Uh, the darkness uses only the spirit, okay? It breaks the spirit and it uses the spirit, but always God takes the soul before darkness gets to take a hold of it. And all souls are at all times with God. Now, when God takes a soul from an individual, he does so because that individual is doing so much harm onto others and onto himself that God is not willing to allow that individual um, to burden the soul with too much negative karma, so it won't be able to raise to God. Okay, so God takes the soul, and then the problem is when an individual loses the soul, then the fall is much deeper, because the soul is the house of your feelings, of your essence. Uh, the soul power is the highest power possible. So obviously there are certain levels to which you cannot possibly raise upon without a soul. Simply, there's certain spiritual fights which you cannot uphold without having a soul. Okay, in order for those who do redemption nowadays, I hope many people try to do redemption, but for them to do redemption truly, they really need to gain a soul. God will give back souls to people for new embodiment, if they do redemption. So during redemption, in essence, this is what redemption means: that an individual reached rock bottom and decided that he wants to turn into light, and he proves consistently and systematically that he is walking a straight line to light, and he wants God's help. The way God helps that individual is by giving him a soul. But in order to get a soul, you must prove first, and you must be determined. Keep in mind that God knows what is in your heart. If you just say, so, superficially that you want redemption and you don't really want it, and you keep doing the same things, God knows, so He won't give you a soul. But if you truly want to do redemption, God will give you a soul to be able to rise back into light. Okay, many times this is a process. Many times you're still gonna make mistakes, but what matter is if you made a mistake simply because there was too much that you've been faced with, or you simply made a mistake because you got bored and you wanted to go back to the addiction. So you have a little bit more excitement into your life. Okay, so this is a process which develops between God and that individual, honestly. Redemption, it's a process, and I've seen with my own eyes. It's a strenuous process in which usually individuals keep falling, keep rising up, keep falling, keep rising up. God gives them again a soul, they lose it again, they again gain it. So it takes time, but keep in mind that it always has to be a honest um, effort, truly, from the individual side. And there are many other ways in which you lose soul. For example, very deep trauma, then you can lose a soul from a very deep trauma, from deep pain, from so there are many circumstances, from too much witchcraft, sorcery, and darkness attacks on you. Um, there are many situations in which you can lose a soul. And again, God knows the truth. So if this is why the process of redemption is a strenuous process, because there are many circumstances. If you fell too low, there are many circumstances in which you can again lose that soul. And God knows if what you are facing it's way beyond your power, and He will give you a soul so you can gain a little bit more power. And usually God says to me, so he would remember who He is. Okay. um but then again, you have to prove yourself so you can receive the soul again. So this is a process in which you truly must prove to God that you truly desire to do this, and you will receive a soul. Now, in order to receive a soul, basically that soul has to learn lessons. And usually what God does, sends the soul to the earth in animal embodiment, so the soul would learn certain lessons. You know, there are souls which come from individuals with broken spirit. And I'll give you one example. I had dogs basically who were embodiment of souls who didn't know to fight for themselves. So they were like pushovers. Other dogs will always intimidate them, bully them. They wouldn't have courage to even fight for their food, to gain food. Even if you put food in front of them, another dog comes take it, stuff like this. And God told me, I send this soul on earth to you, so you will teach that soul to fight for himself. So you need to teach this dog and make sure he learns, when you put food in front of him, that he fights for that food. And this, on soul level, this is a lesson to fight for himself, for his rights. And this is a soul which lacks this knowledge. This is the lesson I want you to teach this soul. Okay, so what God does, sends souls in animal embodiment on earth for a few reasons. One, to gain power through sacrifice, doing good for others, to their owners or to the community, because a dog in a community brings light, so it transmutes darkness simply by his presence. Okay, so that is already service to the community, and that soul gains power. Okay, so that's one form in which an animal can gain power for its soul, or by learning lessons which that soul lacked, and this is why it was lost. So I gave you an example with the food. Yeah. So God specifically told me, in case of some of my dogs, was that you don't need to pamper him. What you need is to teach him to stand up and fight the other dog. So he will know on soul level, when I send him as embodiment to a human, so he will remember, you need to stand up for yourself. You can't let others bully you. You can't let others force you, intimidate you, and force you into doing things which are not good for you. and so on. So there are many lessons which a soul can learn in an animal embodiment. Okay, this is called bondage breaking by animal. And in many circumstances, for example, I have done so. Um, I did bondage breaking by animal with certain souls from with whom I was supposed to do bondage breaking, but they in human form, the individuals who were supposed to do bondage breaking with me on those matters, fell so deep and so low that it was impossible to do bondage breaking with them. And they basically became possessed by darkness, by their own will, many of them. And was like, I could break the bondage, but the problem was that they were hanged on toxic behavior, and they were harming me continuously. So uh, God said, in order to break this, that individual needs to gain back his soul, but he can't. So what you need to do is you need to do bondage breaking by animals. So you take that soul and you raise that soul yourself, okay, to the level to which when I send that soul to an individual, he's gonna be able to work through darkness, okay. So what God wants me to tell you at this point in time, and this is his totally idea, of course, I wouldn't have done this because I love animals and bondage breaking by animals, so I wouldn't have thought of this. But God seems to think that this is an opportunity for those who do redemption, and God wants this opportunity, it seems, to happen now. So God says that many of the individuals who want to do redemption, but they feel it's too much for them, too much darkness that they need to fight, and they don't feel they have the power or the willpower to do it or so. What they can do, they can adopt an animal and raise that animal and do bondage breaking through animal and soul embodiment in that animal. Namely, God will send their own soul or somebody else's soul with whom they need to break bondage. But God emphasizes now, as I speak, that He will send their own soul to that animal, so they will get to raise their own soul to the level to which then God can move the soul from the animal to the human. After that soul received the basic lessons necessary, so the human can receive the soul again and fight. I'm not sure if this is clear for everyone. I just woke up and God just told me to say this and to make a video. So I'm going to try to say it again to make sure that it's a little bit more clear. Please go on my Facebook page as well and seek for those uh, prophetic writings in which I explained about bondage breaking by animal, and try to understand better. So God says, for those who want to do redemption, to take an animal and raise that animal, what's gonna happen is God will send your soul to that animal. So you will be taking care of your own soul while you take care of that animal. Okay? There are certain lessons, basic lessons, which you as an individual seems are lacking. You're not fighting for yourself, you're not loving yourself, you're not even an animal, especially a dog, but an animal in any case can give you much love. Maybe you don't love yourself, so as you will love that animal, you will learn first of all how uh, pure love is exchanged, first of all. And this is a healing process. Pure love is healing, is pure energy, is the highest form of energy. Okay, so you're gonna be doing soul healing on your own soul as you love that animal. Okay, so you're gonna be raising your own soul. And I don't know whatever lessons you need to learn on soul level. It could be that you need to do healing by love on your own soul. Maybe you didn't feel love, or you, again, please watch my previous video in which I explain love. 5D love, pure love, is entirely different from the craziness which people call falling in love. which is not of God. Yeah. It's a programming done through much of the sexual revolution which has been imposed over humanity. So what happens, it could be that you need, for example, on soul level, to give and receive pure love, so you learn how to do that. Or so you'll do healing on your own soul, or you can do healing on your own body through that, to the extent necessary, so you can actually receive a soul, that soul, from God, so you can then gain more power into doing the spiritual fighting of returning back to light and finishing breaking bondages and paying back the negative karma and so on. Okay, so I really hope this is clear enough. So you basically take an animal, raise that animal, know that God will send the soul to that animal. So you make sure you take care of that animal and understand that the soul in that animal will learn the lessons to the extent to which you actually pay attention to that animal. So don't take an animal and torture him, please. I'm not so comfortable with this idea, but it seems God is very keen on doing this with everybody. So with everybody who's willing to fight. So I guess I really pray for those animals that you get, that you don't hurt them. But understand that through that animal, you will do bondage breaking for yourself. There are certain bondages which can be broken this way through animals. Okay, there are certain situations, for example, in which some of the dogs that I raised had the bondage of death. So my neighbors poisoned them in my own courtyard. Okay, and God helped me to break that bondage for that soul. Namely, God told me the second they gave him they gave my dog poison. God told me, go outside, he's poisoned, go take the dog. And indeed, he was poisoned, he was sick, he was gonna die in a few hours if I didn't go when God said. And God told me exactly what to do so I can save the dog. And I did save that dog. And through that, he survived, and we broke the bondage for that soul of being poisoned. So he didn't die, he survived. So the bondage was broken. So there are many ways. I cannot sum them up right now, all of them, because they don't come all of them to my mind. I've been raising dogs for a long time, and I've been doing bondage breaking with them for a long time. Another dog, a female dog, for example, which is I'm talking about dogs, but these dogs are essentially souls, which at some point were humans. So that was a bondage created on a human. And this is how that human lost the soul. And God sent me the soul in that animal and taught me how to break the bondage created on that soul. So next, he would be able, that soul, to embody in a human and move to the next level. Okay? Yeah. Another dog, a female dog, had a bondage. Her soul had a bondage um, of not being also of death, but it was a specific type of death. It didn't mean it didn't matter in which way to die, but to die before she gives birth, never to be able to give birth, never to have a house, never to have to give birth to children, and to live in poverty without family. So I took her as a stray dog. Okay, and by taking her in and adopting her formally and living with me, uh, already I broke the bondage on that soul of not having a family. Then she gave birth in my courtyard. So by that and by saving her puppies and raising her puppies, then she broke the bondage of never giving birth. Okay, so I'm giving you an example so you understand. So there are bondages done on certain souls, and sometimes humans, because they're programmed so heavily, they don't get to break that bondage on themselves. So then God gave me some souls in animal embodiment to help those souls break certain bondages, which would help them to survive in human form, when God would send that soul in human form. So they were not killed in before they got to even um, do something in human form. I gave you just a few examples. There are many more. There are many more, and it can get much more complicated. The purpose of an animal on earth is much more sophisticated than you would imagine, and they carry souls which are sent here with a purpose. So maybe even learning all of this, and even God shows to me now that by helping, even if those animals don't carry your own soul, by helping that animal break his own bondage, you gain beneficity and power. Now, this is what God shows me, because you're doing good for a different soul. Maybe this is for egoistic people who don't know how to care for others. I don't know for who it is. But the point is, God says you can gain beneficity and power by doing this, by raising animals and helping them break bondages on their own soul. And this is what God wants people to do nowadays in this present moment. Um, for those who do redemption, for those who need a way to gain more power, um, I don't know for who else, for everybody ideally. But well, then the point is you can do bondage breaking by animals. And by doing so, you have to keep in mind that you're dealing with a soul which has been sent by God to you to help him break his own bondages. So don't be egoistical and think only about yourself, but is a soul which needs to break bondages. And usually these are souls which have generational curses, which makes it impossible for them in human form to be sent on earth in human form. Because of this, because they have bondages which um, uh, end their lives in human soul very early on. Either that they have a broken spirit, and this is what it means when that dog wouldn't stand up for himself, wouldn't even eat if another dog would come next to him, was very scared of everyone. He had an attachment, and he needed to learn to stand up for himself. Um, so there are lessons which you can teach on soul level through animal embodiment, or there are uh, obstacles like I gave you the example with the death, which you can help an animal to overcome by taking care of that animal, and by that you break a bondage, a generational curse um, created on that soul, which that soul cannot do it by itself in a human form. Okay, I hope that I explained it. This is uh, clearly enough by now. You can always write comments and ask me questions if you don't understand something. Again, on animal on soul embodiment in animal and bondage breaking by animals. I wrote on Facebook since 2020 or 2021. I don't remember when I wrote the first article on this topic, but I know that I started sharing publicly information about this in 2020. I know this. But please go check, read them, and if you need more information, please just comment, ask me questions, and I will answer. It's not clear to me exactly who needs to understand what perspective over this topic. Um, I really pray because I love my dogs in general, and I've been doing bondage breaking on animals for a very, very long time. Um, many years, not just since I started writing publicly. I really, really hope that you understand the responsibility and you will love those animals. You're not gonna just take them, use them for a while, and then get bored and throw them away or something. Um, it seems God decided that you need to know this information, so I guess you'll be responsible enough. Um, Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, so we can make this knowledge which I'm sharing to reach as many people as possible. And if you feel inclined to support my work, you will find the information about gifts and my PayPal account for donations in the description box below. Thank you.